Hi! What is cooking magic? Oh boy, this is going to be fun. I absolutely adore cooking. I have worked in restaurants. I've owned my own restaurant. I've always loved cooking. From the time I was, as soon as I recognized that we could eat, I was cooking. My mother did not teach me to cook. She was a good cook. She was a very good cook. But she did not. She was way against that. I never understood that. But I became a gourmet cook. I've taken lots of lessons on cooking. I've been both a meat eater as a youngster. I gave up eating meat. I was vegan for a while. I've been vegetarian. I have not eaten anything but a fish since 1974, and I only started eating fish in 2016 because now I'm below the equator. So I'm called a pescatarian. I eat vegetables and fish, but I cook everything for my husband. Everything. Beef, pork, chicken. And it's fine. It's just fine. But there is a secret to cooking. At one time, I counted my cookbooks, and I had over 300. Now, you have to remember, I was born before the internet. I was cooking before the internet. Decades before the internet, I was cooking. So you have to understand that you had to have cookbooks. There is nothing quite like the joy of cooking, I really have to say. I remember one time I had 3 copies because I used to buy cookbooks at resale stores too, a lot, because I really like to mark them up, and I used to say if there's not food slapped on the page, it's probably no good to read that page. The vegan cookbook, the big vegan cookbooks, is outstanding. I still go to it a lot. The Millennial cookbook is very good. But what I want to tell you is there's a secret. There's only one cookbook you need. But that's not all you need. What you need is the willingness to try anything. Last night I took walnuts and I toasted them. Oh, when you toast nuts, they're just a whole new experience. But the problem with toasting nuts, it's best to do it in real butter. You can do it in olive oil, but I'm like Julia Child. I watch so much Julia Child. I think I grew up watching Julia Child. I know I did. There's nothing like butter, especially for nuts. And the trouble with nuts is in 1 second they're not done. In 17 seconds they're burned. You have to be real careful. You have to keep turning them and turning. Just stand there and stay with them. But last night we had toasted walnuts. I toasted the walnuts, and then I slightly heated 5-6 cloves of garlic. When you're old like my husband and I, your taste buds are sort of gone, and I can eat massive amounts of garlic. I swear that's why I never get sick, because I just don't taste it. I mean, it's just amazing. Anyway, those are things you have to know. You have to know that after a while, especially if you love having dinner parties like I do. You have to know that old people lose their taste buds. It can be really frustrating for a cook. There's been a lot of articles about how frustrating that is for someone who still continues to cook a lot like I do. You have to adapt to the change in the taste buds. But that's not what I want to tell you. What I want to tell you is that cooking is about being brave. Last night I had the toasted walnuts with garlic, and I never measure anything. Please. Even when I'm baking, when I had my bakery, people said, oh, you always have to measure everything for baking. I never did. It's crazy. I had a wonderful place called the Coffee Garden in the beaches of Jacksonville, Florida. It was even written up in the local newspaper because it was so different, and because Prince Andrew came by and visited. And at the time, Prince Andrew wasn't considered a creep, so it was a wonderful thing that he came in there because it was very European. I had pictures of La Bohème and all kinds of pictures up. It was a tiny little place right on the beach, but I had all these posters up of different European events or operas or whatever. And it was huge in the back. It was all a big open backyard behind 3 different businesses. But the coffee garden itself was really tiny. But out there I had all kinds of tables and chairs, and we have outdoor chefs, and it was fun. Anyway, the toasted walnuts with garlic went on top of spaghetti with olive oil. Little salt, little pepper, and a little bit of cilantro, and a little bit of a Tucson blended, a Tuscan Italian blend. And that was dinner. And it was fabulous. Oh, God. There are so many ideas of putting nuts with a little bit of pasta. Simple, simple, simple meals. But what you need, besides one cookbook, is bravery. You have to be brave. You can't go in the kitchen and be meek and mild. You don't make macaroni and cheese. And my husband embarrasses the hell out of me. Every once in a while, I don't know what goes on with him, but every once in a while he wants a peanut butter sandwich. And he asked for one the other day, and I told him, don't you dare tell anybody I made this for you, because that's such a joke between us, because I'm a gourmet cook. Who wants peanut butter and jelly, for goodness sakes? But it was gourmet bread. But instead, I gave him peanut butter with beautiful organic honey that I buy from a local man who makes this honey. Oh, the honey is just heavenly. And of course, my husband loved it. But and I like peanut butter. It's just that I'm a gourmet cook. And I really like to be able to make really good, nutritious, peanut butter is nutritious, actually, things for him. Anyway, one cookbook. I'm going to show you the cookbook. And then we're going to talk about the cookbook. Okay? It's called the Flavor Bible. See, it has a little emblem on here. Let's see, that's from the James Beard Foundation Book Award winner. Oh, God, James Beard is so good. I have several books by James Beard. I have been a fan of James Beard, B-E-A-R-D, for years. I have his Beard on Bread, and I have several cookbooks that have to do with gourmet dinners where he designed the whole dinner. But this cookbook is the essential guide to culinary creativity. Based on the wisdom of America's most imaginative chefs. What does that mean? That means that every course I have ever taken, every time I have ever watched a chef in front of his bookcase, the Flavor Bible. Is there a recipe in it? No recipes. I go to the Flavor Bible, and I open it up, and I go to Indonesian cuisine, or Hungarian cuisine, or Mexican cuisine, or pumpkin seeds. It doesn't matter what I go to. Now, here's the thing. Let me explain this to you. Decades ago, I had met a man who was overweight. Ooh, gosh, but he was funny, and he was so smart, and he was Irish. He loved to tell long stories, and he loved things that were different and interesting. And I don't remember why, but at one point early in knowing him, we stopped at his house for something, and he said, "I'm hungry." Oh, I was his pilot. Anyway, we stopped at his house for something. He said, "I'm hungry." I said, "What have you got in your refrigerator?" He says, "I don't have anything in my refrigerator." I said, "Oh, come on. You must have something in your refrigerator." So I opened the refrigerator, and I looked around, and then I went through. I told him to sit down and be quiet. He was my boss, but I'm always kind of that way when it comes to food. So he sat down, and I looked through his cupboards, and I prepared him a meal. And he loved it. And he said, "How did you do that? I didn't have anything in the refrigerator." I said, "You did. You had enough. I could put it together." That's where the creativity comes from. The Flavor Bible was the strangest experience for me, because at the time I had over 300 cookbooks in my kitchen. I mean, my kitchen walls were lined with cookbooks. Like I said, at the time there was the internet, but unfortunately it didn't work very well. I was living in central Mexico. So I counted on my cookbooks. I used my cookbooks all the time. And my husband bought me a gift for graduation, the Flavor Bible. I thought the man was nuts. I said, "Are you crazy? Honey, I have over 300 cookbooks. I think you're going to like this one." I said, "Okay." So I picked it up, and what I found, I don't know why they called it the Bible, but anyway, they did. It's about taking what you have. Let's say right now you have simi mushrooms or portobello mushrooms in your kitchen, and you have spaghetti or some other pasta in your cupboard, and what spices you have. I have about 70, 80 spices on my spice rack. You should check your spices and see what you have. And maybe you have an onion, and maybe you have some sardines or some anchovies. Maybe you have an avocado, a mango, and an apple. You go in the book, and you can start with any one of those things. You can start with the avocado, you can start with the mango, or you can start with the mushrooms. You can even start with your anchovies if you want, but you're not going to get very far there. Anyway, you look up the item that you have. And let's say your friend has an avocado tree and they brought you 6 avocados. And you're going, "Well, I'm going to do with 6 avocados." And they're all ready. Avocados don't keep. You have a little tiny window to eat the avocado. You look it up and it tells you what it has. Small print, that's sort of goes with it. Then it has a little bit bigger print. Yes, it's good. If it's in bold and big, that is the best thing that goes with your mushrooms or your avocado or your mango. Okay? So what you're doing is you're creating. Oh, it is so much fun once you get over the hump that says, "Oh, what if I make something that doesn't taste good?" Guess what? Everybody has made something that doesn't taste good. Everybody has burned a meal. People have even burned a TV dinner, which is a blessing. Just throw the damn thing away. People need to eat real food. Absolutely. People. I am convinced that living here in Ecuador, in a place where almost everything is grown organically, which is why we moved here. The air is clean and the water is clean, and almost all the food's organic. Statistically, the government said my husband would be dead at 58. He's a Vietnam veteran, 4 years exposure to Agent Orange. He has 17 diseases. He's 85 years old and he's still alive. Real food, that's what you need. Real food. Does that mean you have to have gluten-free? No, it does not. I'm just talking about real food. Real pasta's fine, just ordinary spaghetti that you buy in the store. Yeah, if you need to have gluten-free, sure. If you want to have quinoa pasta, if you want to have any other oat pasta, oat milk, almond milk, all those things. I never drink milk. Milk is for baby cows. I drink soy milk. I drink almond milk. I drink oat milk. Any of those things, sure. Because that's the kind of food that humans are supposed to eat. So, sure. Love tofu. I love tofu. I swear I got through menopause, sailing through menopause, because I've always eaten a lot of tofu. Go figure. Who knows? Who knows? I'm just telling you my experiences. But my experiences are, if you lay out the food you've got, or write a list. It's easier if you lay it out, because then your creativity comes in. Because when you're cooking, when you're preparing a meal, one thing is you want color. The more color in the food, think purple onions, think red tomatoes, think green celery, okay? Think peach-colored peaches, think yellow pineapple. Whatever it is, the more color, the better. The food is saying, hello, have me, take me, eat me, please. Okay, more color, the better. Now, when it comes to how it tastes in the mouth, the more texture. Try to have different textures in your meal. If you're going to have mushrooms or you're going to have avocado, they're sort of a soft, mushy flavor. What about pineapple? What about celery? What about a crisp salad? Texture. What about a nice, hard, fresh French bread? See what I mean? Texture and color makes all the difference in the world. Last night, the spaghetti was very soft. The oil was $40 a bottle. It's organic olive oil. Oh, it's just elegant. But you don't use much. Use a little bit. And then the walnuts were crispy and bright flavored. And then the spices, of course, were green, flaked over the top. Oh, and I also topped it with an organic Fontaine cheese, which is a white cheese. Not quite a Parmesan, but a very much a hard cheese that I had to grate, and that went on the top. So you've got the protein in the cheese, and you've got the protein in the nuts, and you've got the carbohydrates in your spaghetti. Those items are also something you need to know, but you can put that down the road. Okay? What is important right now, as we're first talking, is what color and what texture. As you get to cooking more, as you get more creative, as you're not afraid to cook, then you can start looking at what's a carbohydrate, what's a protein, those things are really important. I started studying nutrition when I was 16. I was really intrigued because I'd been sick, I'd had rheumatic fever, but my family was all suffering from cancer. My father and mother both died of cancer. My maternal grandmother died of cancer. My paternal aunts, 2 of them, died of cancer. And I went, whoa, why is everybody, I know that sounds funny for somebody who was 16, but I already had a child, and so I was concerned about what people should eat, and I already knew that I was probably going to die soon, because rheumatic fever people only live till 35 to 50, and I also had ulcerative colitis diagnosis by the time I was 16. So I was really trying to figure out what nutrition I could put into my body that would be the best for my body, and to understand what I should give to those I cook for. It made sense? Doesn't it make sense? Yeah, okay. Well, it really made sense to me. Anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is the magic of cooking. The absolute magic of cooking is to keep in mind that you can create based on color, texture, if you have the Flavor Bible, because it'll tell you what things go together. And sometimes it'll tell you something bizarre, and you'll think, are you kidding me? Like mushrooms, it might say add a little mint, and you go, mint? And it just seems so strange, but then you try it and you go, well, I'll be darned. It does taste good. Because the book is based on, as it says, the wisdom of America's most imaginative chefs. It doesn't say most successful. It doesn't say richest. It says imaginative. So the whole concept of this book, and I don't get any money for this book. They don't even know I exist. I live out here in Ecuador in the middle of nowhere. No, they don't know me. But it's about putting, it shows on here, there's three different dry with a saffron. I know, that's saffron, black sesame seeds, and something that looks like it could be cumin or turmeric or curry, and then a colored oil. So you see, in the spoons, you've got these different items, and then the seal by James Beard that says, "Go for it, baby," and I mean it. And if you ever find a used cookbook by James Beard, just pick it up. Oh, by the way, I've written cookbooks. I've ghost-written a number of cookbooks. I've even ghost-written one that had choices of vegan, vegetarian, meat, and gluten-free. So it's not like I haven't. And I owned a bakery. I used to bake bread all the time. And cakes and cookies and all that there. It was European style, so it wasn't like frosting bakery. It was like real bread, real grains. Oh God, it was wonderful. Yeah, I really loved, and I love the smell of a bakery. But again, and when I hired people, I let them be creative. I let them come up with it. I had no standard menu. It was a chalkboard. Whatever was in season. That's not a standard restaurant. A standard restaurant, you want to go back and get the same meal and have it taste the same. That's the way I score a restaurant. But my restaurant was European, so it wasn't like that at all. It was whatever was fresh and good and ready and time. And, like there's different here in Ecuador, we have certain times of the year that you can have crab and other times that you can't because the crab has to renew. Ecuador is really good about environmental protection. Not always, yes, there's been lots of issues and there's always corruption, but in general, I wish you could see the blue that I'm seeing in the sky right now. It just doesn't come in as bright as it really is. It's just absolutely the most beautiful blue. And at night, you can reach up and touch the stars. And so that what's growing behind me, what I've got back here is lots and lots of bananas, papaya, avocado, mango. It's all back here being grown. And all my neighbors are growing corn and jackfruit and mangoes and avocados and all the things that grow in Ecuador. And so what I'm trying to do today is to encourage you to not be afraid. Pick up the Flavor Bible. Maybe you find one used because it's been around a while. It says it got the IACP award-winning authors of What to Drink with What You Eat, so you could try that too. But it was $15 when it was printed, and I don't know when that was, but maybe I can tell you. I doubt it. Sometimes people keep those things to themselves. It was printed in New York. This was printed in 1908. I've got to tell you, it's the answer to a chef's prayers, because there are so many times when you walk in the kitchen and you go, oh man, I have had it. I mean, I live out here. I don't have lunch in town, and I certainly don't go out to eat very often. It's maybe twice a month. So when you cook day after day after day, even if you love cooking, day after get the picture. There are times when you walk in the kitchen and you go, ugh, because I only shop once a week. So what if I forget something? Or what if I buy too much of something? That's when I go to the Flavor Bible. And sometimes I just go to it for fun. I just say, ooh, somebody just gave us some pomegranates. Let me go see what goes with pomegranates. Honestly, it has spices in there. It has fruits and vegetables and meats and fish and all that. You go in there and you think, oh, it surely won't have sesame oil. There it is, right there. So what I'm telling you to do is get brave. Don't be afraid. Make it just for yourself if you're that much of a coward. Or make it for yourself and your 3-year-old and see if they'll eat it. But don't be afraid to use your flavor Bible. Learn how to cook. Learn the magic of cooking. Learn the magic of putting foods together that you never, ever, ever thought would work. And stepping back and going, whoa. The kids might like macaroni and cheese, but Dad and I were having pheasant under glass or something. No, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Don't kid yourself into thinking that everything in there is gourmet. It's not. It can tell you what to do with a piece of toast. What would go good on a piece of toast. And maybe you're going to find out that what would go really good on a piece of toast is a hard cheese like I showed you and a little dab of curry. What? Curry on a piece of toast? Yeah, could be. Check it out. I'll bet you, here we go. Never tried this. Piece of toast, real thin slices of a nice ripe apple, then the cheese, and then a little curry. On top of the apple, I would put either a couple of raisins or craisins, which that's dried cranberries. Then the cheese, then the curry. If you don't have a broiler, put it on a pan on the stove and just put a lid on it. Real low heat, just so there's heat coming and it's got time for that cheese to melt. I bet you that's good. I've never tried it. Yeah, that's what creative cooking is about. That's what the magic of cooking is about. Open your mind. Don't be afraid. Plow right in there. And so many times you'll be a hero. I swear, so many times you'll be a hero. Okay? All right. Got a question? Put it down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. While you're down there, check out our nonprofit. I've had a nonprofit for the last 34 years. We've done a lot of work in Mexico and even here in Ecuador. We've done some work, but we're retired now, and 2 of us are artists, and we're both working with things to help you remember to take care of our planet. The environment needs you to pay attention and honor it, because there's no planet B. Thank you.